Now let's look at the common guitar techniques and how they're notated in tab. Let's start with the hammer-on. So a hammer-on is when you do this. So you pick the note once and you make the second sound by hammering with your fretting finger. So the way that you usually notate that is by using a tie. In older tabs it's just a letter H, so like 1, H, 3. But for this one we're going to go 1, a tie or an arc, and a 3. The opposite of that is a pull-off. So a pull-off is when you start with a higher fret and you make the second sound by pulling to the lower note. So you pull down. So I only pluck it once. Then I make the second sound with my left hand by pulling down on the string. Again, you notate that with a tie. In older tabs you might see a letter P3 and then P1. But for this one, you're going to use a tie. Next, let's look at legato slides. Let's look at the ascending legato slides. Again, you only pluck it once. And you make the second sound by sliding up to the note, the target note. So I just plucked that once. So if you see a tie and then there's an ascending line, that means it's a legato slide. If you see a descending line, so starting from a higher fret going down, then that's a descending slide. And it has an arc and a descending slide. Next you have a shift slide. So a shift slide just means that you pluck the starting note and then you slide up and then pluck again on the end note. So 1. So that's an ascending shift slide. The opposite is a descending shift slide. So for that, you just use the ascending line or descending line without the arc, without the tie. Now sometimes you might see a line either ascending or descending right before a fret number. Alright, for example, you might see like a descending line and then 3. It just means that you're going to start from anywhere really above the 3rd fret. But generally, at least for my stuff, I just start a fret above. But it could mean you could start from here. Now if you see an ascending line and then the fret number, let's just say 3, 3rd fret, it means you start from below the 3rd fret. Could be from 1 fret below or 2 frets below or more. Okay, now let's go to the strumming. So when you see an up arrow, it's kind of confusing because you're thinking that's an up strum, but on the tab that's actually a down strum. Because on the tab, the lowest line is your lowest string, and the highest line on the tab is your highest sounding E string. So you're going from the low sounding E string up to the highest sounding E string. So the up arrow is actually a down strum, and then the down arrow is an up strum. Okay. And then lastly, I also want to go over what I call the arpeggiate sign. So to arpeggiate means to play the notes one at a time, as opposed to just clawing the chord once. So generally when you see this sign, this arpeggiate sign, you kind of play it one at a time, but generally fast. You may also see bends, and that's notated with an arrow. If it's like an arrow up and then 1/2, it means you bend up half a step. So that's your target note. And generally you don't do that on an acoustic guitar because the strings might break. But if you play electric guitar, you'll see that a lot in the tabs. So here's an example of where you might encounter these.